Did you see President Trump?
All right.
Oh, you mean when he said he's
Oh,
the first one?
we didn't. Therese, do you know? Can you? I have to introduce Bruce.
Oh, absolutely.
You want me to do something for you?
Yes, please.
Okay. What can I do?
I'm hoping to begin this recording for Citizens for Just Water. Can you babysit this for me? Thank you.
That's going to be tough.
And that's going to be...
Hi, everybody. I don't know how to make it turn around. One person will pick it. All right, where's the thing? You got it? Woo! Blind, I'm blind. Larry? Can I have, are we ready? Or no? A few more minutes?
Whenever you want to start.
Whenever I want to start?
Make sure you mention the Green Party.
Okay. So where do I mention the Green Party?
What?
Where do I mention your live spaces? We are. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Peace and Justice Center. I've got to read a statement really fast. Our host tonight is the Monterey Peace and Justice Center, a community-supported facility dedicated to education on peace, nonviolence, democracy, social justice, and environmental sustainability. The views expressed at this meeting are not necessarily endorsed by the center, whose objective is to stimulate discussion and thinking on social and political issues. The center is supported by volunteer efforts and donations from people like you. To learn more about the programs of the center, take an MPJC brochure and fill out one of our cards to receive the quarterly mailings and the emailed weekly peace calendar produced by Joyce Vanderveer for the Peace Coalition of Monterey County. You can also view the peace calendar online at www.peacecentral.org. The center's library and reading room are open Wednesdays and Saturdays from 1 to 5:30 p.m. You are welcome to drop in for a visit and a cup of tea. Ooh, doesn't that sound wonderful? And then also tonight's event is hosted by the Green Party of Monterey County. Thank you all. And I think somewhere around here is Bruce Delgado. There he is. All right. And welcome everybody, Mayor Marina Bruce Delgado.
All right, thanks for coming. The views I'm about to express are not necessarily my own. So, welcome to Paradise. I was in Paradise today, went for a walk on our beach. And it was vast, and we were the only ones there. It's like a wilderness experience. Just amazing. I mean, this is where we live. Not too many people that live near the coast have that to walk across. But there is trouble. So this is a Steve's Mac drone aerial photo of the dredge pond there in the lower left of the Cinex plant, and a couple of settling ponds to the right of that. And it just kind of shows you some of the more used areas. And in the upper left, it shows you some native habitat that's fairly intact. That's coastal dune scrub, really nice habitat with several rare plants and some rare animals. And so there was a solution that was found, a negotiated settlement toward the Cinex mine closure, and it's the last remaining mine on the United States coastline. Can you all hear me back there? Mm-hmm. Let me get a little closer.
You guys can come closer.
So there were 5 sand mines in the Monterey Peninsula area, but because they're environmentally damaging, the 4 closest to Monterey were closed long ago, leaving only one to do the job that all 5 of them used to do, and that one was the one left in Marina. But it was a start of a trend of what I would think of as environmental injustice, where the poorest, smallest community takes the brunt of the environmental impact for a regional industrial facility. It has to stop mining in December 2020. It has to be reclaimed, sort of like restoration, but it's not real clear how far toward complete restoration reclamation has to be. Oops, that should say 2023, sorry. So in 2017, they had 3 years to stop mining at a reduced mining rate, and then they had 3 years after that to reclaim the area, and then they're required to sell it to a nonprofit for passive uses at a discount. So it's getting appraised now by appraisers, and Big Sur Land Trust, Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District, the Nature Conservancy, entities like that are talking about who could do what in some sort of a team effort to protect and manage this in perpetuity. For environmental education, passive hiking, maybe dog on leash, maybe a wedding facility to bring in some revenue in the old building areas where there's buildings now, what to do with the buildings there now, whether you want to keep some of them to interpret the past, the mining past, or they're too funky and you need to bulldoze them. But that sort of detail is not decided, just that it's not going to be mined, it's not going to be valued for any unused sand, so there'll be no mineral value in the sale price allowed. So a really great settlement in 2017, and it really got rolling when the city council declared it to be a public nuisance, because up until that point there were 75 acres of land in the city limits that had eroded into the ocean. So we lost 75 football fields worth of coastal dune habitat because of mining. And we're so fortunate to have Ed Thornton, who since the 70s was doing research on this subject on site. So we had the expert who had all the data and all the research, and we just had to say, because of this research, that's a public nuisance. You can't continue doing that, because a public nuisance obstructs the free use of property and it interferes with the enjoyment of people's lives or the property, which was very true, because sometimes you couldn't get across it because the pond was sucking in the ocean, and so you couldn't cross the incoming waves that were going into the pond. You had to turn around and go back. So because of the California Coastal Commission support, State Lands Commission, and locally Surfriders and Save Our Shores, everybody sort of ganged up on CEMEX, and they negotiated that closure. So that was reason to celebrate, but now another regional industrial facility, as you know, is proposed in the same area. This shows 36 acres of an easement in that colored area where they could pretty much do what they want as far as pipes, well heads, buildings, electrical buildings, whatever. That's 36 acres. The chronology of this proposed groundwater desal project, it's not an ocean desal. 82% of it's groundwater, 18% of it's marine ocean water. So really it's a groundwater extraction, and it's a $1.2 billion construction if you include the debt service. But back in 2011 was really important. The Marina Coast Water District, which was on the team, and they were going to own and operate the plant, and own and operate the extraction wells for public benefit, not for private gain. And they could have drilled vertically or slant, whatever was the environmentally best option. But because of a conflict of interest, which really wasn't that big of a deal, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute, the door was open through which CalAm rushed to get rid of the public piece of this project and reassemble the same exact team minus the public agency. So now it's going to be CalAm operated and CalAm owned for profit with no public entity involved in the plant or the pipes or the extraction wells. So, and in 2014, the CalAm spent a little bit over $2 million to beat the people that wanted to buy them out, the Public Water Now people. But CalAm spent over $2 million, and the local residents spent $100K. So if it was reversed, you can imagine what that result would have been for Measure O. And then there was a conflict of interest on the other side of the scale, where the patent owner, Dennis Williams, was on both sides of the development and the testing and on the interpretation of the data to determine whether or not it was feasible technologically. So the guy that's going to make the money is the judge on whether it's technologically feasible. Conflict of interest, so it caused a delay in the project to review everything he had done and rearrange the relationship, so he's no longer on both sides of that coin. But there was no penalty, there was no change in team ownership, team members. And that was a much worse conflict of interest than the Steve Collins deal. But then in 2018, Measure J was brought back by Public Water Now folks. Still, it was outspent, a lot of money, but it beat CalAm and Measure J passed, forcing the Monterey Peninsula Regional Management District Monterey Water Management District to do a feasibility study to see if they could buy out CalAm. So CalAm in those two instances totaled $5.2 million to flood everyone's ears and airwaves and TV to persuade them that it would be a waste to throw away $700,000 to do a feasibility study so ratepayers could get local control of their system. Where we are now, kind of cutting to the punchline, is October 29th, next Tuesday. We're expected to have out for public review a very important California Coastal Commission staff report. And if it says yes to CalAm, we're going to be very disappointed, and we're going to have a lot of work to do between there and the 14th of next November. If it says no to CalAm, we're going to celebrate and still keep our nose to the grindstone, because a lot can happen. This has been a very bizarre, over a decade process. So no matter what happens to the staff report next Tuesday, which we're waiting with bated breath, we're going to have a lot of work to do, continuing the kind of work that Kathy Biala and Monica Kim and Therese Kohler, who's in the room, and others have been working very hard on this for the Marina community, and people like Melanie Chrislock and others have been working very hard in the Peninsula, Carmel, CalAm district area, PG, Monterey, Seaside, to show that it's not just Marina that's of this opinion, but it's everybody that's going to be harmed by it, which includes all of CalAm's district. So that Thursday, November 14th, next month, is the big meeting, Half Moon Bay. We want to get as many people there. There's bus transportation. And for people that just can't make it to Half Moon Bay, for the first time in the history of the Coastal Commission, they're going to have a live feed from a remote location. It's going to be the Marina City Council chambers, where anyone can go, fill out a speaker card, speak as if you were in Half Moon Bay. So you will be part of the public comment on that item if you come to the Marina City Council chambers at the correct time. Fill out a speaker card, because the Coastal Commission staff will be there. And so there's two ways to be present, and if you can't do either of those, there are brief letters to sign that are already written, and then you can do the normal thing of writing your own letter in your own language. It doesn't have to be English. The more languages written and the more languages spoken, the more it speaks to the environmental injustice of the people that are going to be harmed by this. So it doesn't have to be English only. When you speak or write, do whatever you want in whatever language. So we'll continue doing that, and Therese, can you speak a little bit later when I'm done about what people can do and where the paperwork is for them?
Yep, absolutely.
Because we want about 2,000 signatures, so we want 200 people to collect 10. Most of us have 10 people we can knock on a door or talk to, we already know, and get them to sign this brief letter that's already written, and then also encourages people to show up on Half Moon Bay, get on a bus, and encourages people to do what they can. But those details, Therese will brief us in just a few minutes. So why it all matters, starting with the groundwater underground, a recent study, a couple of studies actually, documented fresh groundwater above the 400-foot aquifer and the 180, and in the 400-foot aquifer serving Marina. That's what we drink in Marina, that plus the 900. But somewhere around 30 to 50% of our drinking water and that of the Ord community comes from the 400 aquifer. And then it's been documented in the last 2 years. The groundwater has been flowing toward the ocean. So intuitively, you can imagine water running toward the ocean, and you suck it up with your straw, leaving a gap. What is going to fill that gap? Seawater. And if the fresh water that you pulled out was pushing against the ocean water, and now it's gone, so the ocean water comes in, like we just said, there is communication between the 180 and the 400. So instead of a freshwater communication with a freshwater 400, you're going to have more seawater communication with the freshwater 400. And that's contaminating the only source of drinking water that Marina relies on, that and the 900. The slant wells would draw from the 180 and the 400 aquifer, the 180-foot deep aquifer of water and the 400-foot deep aquifer of water. And these aquifers have been considered critically overdrafted. Of the 400 in the state, there's 21 that are overdrafted, including ours, our 180-400. So, a little busy, but it's important to understand what they're talking about. These are these green or yellow, these boxes? Yellow boxes. Those are the proposed wellheads from which the slant wells will emanate. And a typical wellhead layout, this is from the EIR that went through this California Public Utilities Commission, Figure 3.3a. But anyway, each one of these yellow boxes, shown here as a typical layout, will have a 10-foot tall, 18-foot wide, 11-foot deep building, and it'll have riprap over here that's 12 by 18 feet, and it'll be on a concrete pad that's about 6,000 square feet. And you'll have those up and down there. And so that's what's going to be, instead of reclaiming it like our 2017 settlement, it's going to have that. And we'll get more into that in a minute. Did I miss anything here? No. So the other reason it matters is because of environmental injustice, which if you go to the EPA website, regardless of race, color, origin, or income, we're all entitled to equal protection from environmental harm. Well, Marina fits this description very well of a disadvantaged community where only 34% are Caucasian. And our income is 8% less than Monterey County overall. It's hard for a city in a county to be 8% less than that county, because most cities and most counties are not that different in this category. We already have the regional landfill, the regional sewage plant. We're playing for the team. Everyone from Carmel Valley to Marina, your sewage, your landfill, your sand mine, your composting and the anaerobic digester, and your composting in a big 20-acre outdoor facility, that's all in Marina. And all the odors go south when the wind is wrong. And some people, they get sick, their kids throw up. Sometimes they close their doors and windows and they can't escape the smells. That's what it's like to be next to industrial facilities worldwide. And environmental justice tries to do better than we did in the past and not locate these facilities near the poorer communities only to serve the more affluent communities who don't want those facilities in their backyard and normally have the power and the money to keep them out of the backyard. That's injustice environmentally, according to the EPA. Social injustice includes all the people who are struggling with rentals in the Monterey, Carmel. Not everyone's affluent in the CalAm district. There's a lot of people that are struggling to pay their water bills because they're the highest in the nation already. But social justice is a concept which holds all people should have equal access to wealth, health, well-being, justice, and opportunity. Well, if you're working 2 or 3 jobs and you have to pay more and more for your water, you don't have the same opportunity as someone who can pay that kind of money. So you don't want unnecessarily your utility bills to go up because it's going to be harder to make those choices of where to put your money. Food, clothing, whatever your medical bills, etc. If your water goes up or any other bill goes up because of you're trying to serve the private master, the corporation who's making more profit from you, that's not social justice. It matters environmentally because rare plants and animals live here. There's a vernal pool system where there's vernal pools, Highway 1, Del Monte Boulevard. There's vernal pools between Del Monte Boulevard and Highway 1. And a vernal pool is something where the surface water is so close to the ground that it is on the surface. But if you draw down the surface, that vernal pool would potentially go dry. And there are some wet areas that are not vernal pools, but they're wet habitats across in this area. And the geomorphologists that are consulting the city of Marina are telling us that those are linked to the dune sand aquifer, which is sort of perched above the 180-foot deep aquifer, but it's the most shallow aquifer. And so if you put straws in and you draw everything down, the most vulnerable ecosystem are those that are the aquatic ones that will go dry. Because if you're something that depends on an aquatic ecosystem and you lose your water, then you're not going to persist at that location. And vernal pools are known to support California tiger salamanders and other rare and endangered species. So the difference environmentally when you're in a sensitive habitat, like the coastal dunes or these vernal pool wet habitats, the difference between restoring habitat, like the 2017 settlement agreement calls for, or putting in yet another industrial facility, there's a big difference in the impacts to those sensitive habitats. So this is a Steve Mack, another aerial from a drone, and it's showing you where CEMEX gets their sand, where they process their sand, where they store their sand. And that's what is, by 2023, supposed to be reclaimed, restored. So you drive down the highway, and that's kind of what you see. But it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, the plan A is to turn it more into the natural landscape that surrounds it, that hasn't been so impacted. Visual resources and public access. The visual resources and public access here are nil. Well, poor visual resources and zero public access. And part of the Coastal Commission's mantra or marching order is to protect public access and the resources along the coast. Okay, so I want to show you outside of that zone that's going to have all that infrastructure, and this is a road network to serve that zone, because it's loose sand. You can't be maintaining extraction wells, getting your truck stuck in the sand. You need a good road system. So here again, instead of reclaiming that, you put in a road system, and then you put in all your infrastructure, and what have you done? You've just created a new industrial facility visible from Highway 1 and from the coast, and Marina is within the city limits, which include the sand mine. Marina is planning on putting new development, not in the vernal pool area, but very close to this area called Marina Station. So all those people are going to live there. That is going to be their primary access to the beach, if they have access to the beach, and if it's a good access to the beach. They're not going to want to go for a picnic through an industrial facility on the way to the beach. And that gets to the environmental justice. You live in Marina, that's your beach. You live in Monterey, and you have windows to the bay, which used to be more industrial. But they're cleaning it up because they see the value to their quality of life. We see the value to our quality of life too. We just want to be able to control our own destiny a little bit, like other cities in the Monterey Bay region. It matters financially because there's an option to the $1.2 billion, which is a $200 million alternative. That's the construction. So do you want to spend $1.2 billion or do you want to spend $200 million on another option? And then once it's operating, it's $6,000 per acre foot for the desal water, or it's 2,000 acres, $2,000 per acre foot for the recycled water. So it's kind of a no-brainer. And it's up to us to get after the Coastal Commission to protect our valuable resources. So I want to thank the Green Party for hosting tonight and the Peace and Justice Center for letting us be here. But I didn't want to talk too long because I'd rather have some discussion and hear what we can do about it. So why don't we first take any burning questions, and then I'll ask Therese to come up and give us some details about how people hope to get involved.
Before we do that, I want to pass the hat, where the money goes to the Peace and Justice Center eventually, to help them put on these kind of events, and then we should put these over. Pass it around.
Thank you, Larry. Larry Parrish is a leader in the Monterey County Green
Can you hold
Party.
this for a minute? I'll donate.
Has been for a long time.
That was supposed
Still
to
are?
be for buses. Oh.
Recently, there's a judge who says that hold the construction until November the 17th.
So Monterey County Superior Court Judge Lydia Virial did something that was prudent. She said, before you have approval for your project, don't dig up the world putting in publicly funded pipes for that project. What the County Board of Supervisors did in July is they said, we approve you to begin construction even though you don't have permits. You don't have approval to do the project. And that's not a very good use of public funds.
Share this
building
video, yo.
Pieces to a project that haven't been approved, because you might end up wasting public money. But they wanted to build momentum, I think, to get things in the ground and make it harder to turn around.
I
So
can
the
do both.
pipes are paid by the public or by the
I don't know why this
ratepayers?
guy should
Well, who are the ratepayers?
put it back on.
Okay.
They're not paid by the
So it
shareholders,
was
that's what I mean.
recovering
It's
data,
not
and I
paid for
shouldn't
by
touch it
CalAm, it's
first.
paid for by you, if you live in the CalAm district. And so what that judge said was, wait till the Coastal Commission hearing on the 14th of November, because if they say no, then you shouldn't be building any construction, you shouldn't do any construction. And so on the 19th, 5 days after the Coastal Commission meeting, that judge will relook at that temporary restraining order. Yes, Eric.
Do you know if it's possible to buy stock in CalAm, or is it closed?
George, can you speak to
Yeah,
that?
you might talk in American Water Works.
American Water.
Works is on the New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you.
Like in Kentucky, it's called CalAm, and there's Florida Am, and different states have an Am.
AWK is
Bruce, will mining have any responsibility for the mining company? Will they have any responsibility for any cleanup?
Yeah, so that's the reclamation. So they're responsible for 3 years of reclamation. And the problem with mining across the United States is the only thing that really holds them is a bond. So they put up some money when they start mining, and if they leave town, they don't get their money back. But oftentimes it's cheaper to leave.
Do you have any anticipation of what a cleanup would look like?
Yeah, it looked like the surrounding unmined area. But that's the difference between a full-on restoration, restore to what it was, and reclamation, which isn't really clear what that means. How far they have to go, it's not well understood.
Bruce,
Yes.
is the proposed desal plant on the same footprint as Cemex? Or
No.
are they different locations?
Looks like different locations.
The same property, and there's some overlap. So, this is their 36 acres, they can do what they want. This is the area that's going to be roaded. They're going to put roads in. These buildings are the processing where they put the sand in the bags. Over there are the ponds. And then over here is where they store it. So south of the access road right now, this is the access road to the mine. South of that access road, there's quite a bit of overlap. And some of these areas have already been restored. So some of these areas were mined in the past, and they took all the sand that they expected to get, and then they had to restore them. And they did a very good job of restoring them. So A, they did a good job, and two, they sort of demonstrated how good habitat can be, even though it used to be mined. So that's really good news, is that the habitat is resilient if you protect it.
Did they carve that out of the Cemex property so that it can't be considered for public ownership down the road? When the rest of the Cemex does?
On your question, Cemex operates here and up here, larger, right here. The slant wells are gonna go in down here. So they're taking new territory to put in their slant wells. New ground area for their slant wells.
So they own that, or they bought that?
So Cemex owns it, CalAm has the right to use it right away, an easement, to put in pipes and infrastructure. So they have I guess it's a permanent easement. There's some argument about that, but anyway, rights of way, easements, you can do what you want, even though you don't own it. You paid somebody else to do something on their land, but they can't stop you once you paid them for that right of way.
So will Cemex continue to own that?
No, by the settlement agreement, they have to sell it to a nonprofit entity, government agency, or someone like Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District.
So meaning that one of those nonprofits or whatever coalition nonprofits would then be in the position of being the steward for...
They'd be the fee title owner,
the fee title owner.
and they would manage it according to public processes, public documents. So probably what's going to happen is somebody like the Big Sur Land Trust, who does more preservation, they're probably going to manage the northern part of it that's in good shape. And then someone who does a lot of public recreation, like the Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District, will probably manage the building area. You know, if there's a wedding venue or a visitor center like you have at Elkhorn Slough, where there's an environmental education visitor center, that kind of stuff is more like Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District. The Nature Conservancy might help out with funding and research and making sure the methodology is in place for the reclamation to be successful and for the future restoration to be successful. They might bring in more of the scientists to do that. So it's probably going to be a team effort because nobody wants to do all of those things. Some agencies are better capable of doing certain pieces of what has to happen on that land.
But under the Coastal Commission decision to close the land, the sand mine, under that decision, they allowed the easement to continue. So whoever owns the land around it must honor the easement to CalAm at this point.
Right. So let me get a better picture here if I can find one.
All the slant wells are going to be to the right of that commission.
So who gave the easement to CalAm? Is it Cemex or is it?
Cemex
Cemex
granted
made
them the
money,
easement.
but Cemex was kind of strong-armed into it because they were threatened with eminent domain by CalAm if they didn't give them that.
What are you looking
The Coastal
for?
Commission honored that.
Well, because, yeah, the Coastal Commission said that whatever easements run with the land, knowing that that was the main one that CalAm was concerned about. Because CalAm was saying, don't you dare settle this unless you specifically keep our rights respected. So, so CalAm has their easement, they can do this, they can do those roads. Now imagine trying to have a public recreation boardwalk network for people to go hiking and stuff like that and access the beach at different points when you're sort of a donut with a big hole in the middle of the donut. And it's going to be fenced off, it's not going to look nice, and you're trying to weave your way around it to have a boardwalk experience on a natural coastal dune system. It'd be like putting some buildings and roads in Window on the Bay and having to go around those to enjoy Window on the Bay. It just probably wouldn't happen. Is there a question over here? Yes,
I
Susan.
have two questions. First of all, if the Coastal Commission rules against CalAm, will they lose that easement? And second, isn't that supposed to be very productive snowy plover breeding area in that area that they're taking over?
The Fish and Wildlife Service and Point Blue, who do the biologists who do the snowy plover research, they say there's going to be 14 acres of temporary habitat disturbance and I think 4 or 7 acres permanently lost. Most of the snowy plover is on the beach, and most of this is in the hind dunes and mid dunes, but there's some overlap. It's not good for the plover, that's for sure.
It'll disturb.
What's
The
your
other
question?
thing is, if the coastal commission rules, denies the permit, will they lose that easement?
No, that easement is theirs, but they won't be able to use it.
Okay.
I mean, if the coastal commission says no to CalAm, no one would be shocked if they go to court, right? So the coastal commission, in whichever way it goes, is probably not the final, but it's a big step for whoever is favored by that decision. But that decision doesn't do anything to this easement, except CalAm couldn't put their project there unless they prevail in court later on.
So there's something a little confused. If CMEX has to do a 3-year restoration project, it's now making a little bit more sense. CalAm is not putting their plant wells on the CMEX property.
It's 400 acres.
Doing it
They are. No,
separate
it's
of it.
the CMEX property is 400 acres, 100 of which have been used for the mining operation, degraded, used, whatever. So if CalAm doesn't go there, all 400 acres will be reclaimed by CEMEX, and if it's not full restoration, they would be further restored by the future landowners, except for those areas that the future landowners want to use for public access, interpretation, and other passive uses.
But so I was just confused. How is it that CalAm has been able to get this land?
Like and share this video.
The agreement with CMEX was that it all had to be restored.
Because the agreement with CMEX that said it all had to be restored said, however, we will respect all agreements that run with the land, such as rights of ways and easements, knowing that CalAm had an easement.
But an
So
easement doesn't give you the right to build sweat wells.
it does. The easement gives you the right to put in utilities, in this case. That's pretty standard. If you buy an easement across someone else's land for utilities, that's yours. You know, that's what.
So, can you also explain that, did you say 6,000 square feet is what the
Yeah, so
pads will constitute?
Yeah, this is a typical well site layout. This square here, and it says 5,200 to 6,000 plus square feet.
Per slant well?
Yeah, this is a concrete pad on which they have wellheads, electrical, single-story building, and riprap, which I'm not sure what that's for, but
And a fence.
And they will have about 7 or 8 slant wells.
they have one, and they're saying probably 7, but up to 9. And they can have up to 10. But listen to this. I didn't get into some of these details, but here are some of the environmental comparisons. The recycled water, 5,000 megawatt hours per year to power it, energy-wise, to run the pumps, etc. Recycled water, let's call it 6,000 megawatt hours. Desal, 38,000. So the desal is more than 6 times the energy consumption of the recycled water option. Then you move to what's going out in the air. The recycled water would put out 2 metric tons of carbon dioxide every year. 2 tons. The desal would put out 5,000 tons.
What?
So
I was had it
it's more than 2,000 times the amount of CO2 going in the air. It's actually 2,500 times the desal gas emissions as compared to the recycled. When you talk about brine discharging to the bay, if you start with 2 gallons of desal water, 1 you drink, and 1 is highly concentrated with saline, and you put that, call it brine discharge, you put that into the bay. So that's kind of like the water pollution coming out of a desal plant. The recycled water, they're also taking salts, agricultural salts, naturally occurring salts in the soil. Those have to come out of the recycled water too. So both have an impact when it comes to salt discharging into the bay. 6 to 7 million gallons per day from the recycle project of brine salty concentrate. Call it 7 million. Oh, sorry, that's for the desal. 500,000 with the recycle. So 500,000 gallons of brine or 7 million gallons of brine. So on the salt output, the desal is over 12 times the amount of salt that's going to go into the bay every day. So there's really nothing going for the desal except profit for the entity that's going to own it. I guess a business satisfaction for businesses that think the more water you have, the more growth you can have. Water will not be a restriction, because if you just have more than you need, then you can go for it. And who else benefits? The CalAm Desal is probably more drought proof, but the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District has a memo out that they paid a consultant to look at the drought resilience of recycled option. And George, what does it say? It says that it's drought resistant, drought was a term they used. So anyway, this report out by the Water Management District, Monterey Peninsula, states that by the year 2034, the recycled water option could be drought resilient even if you had a 4 to 7 or longer year drought. We don't very often have a longer year drought than 7 years. But then, if I was CalAm, I'd say, yeah, but between now and 2034, the desal would be more drought proof. So, there's that. Do you have any comment on that, George?
I want to add that the winners and losers here versus the power elites who think they run everything versus the citizens who kind of get the impact of everything they decide is good for us. And for the first time, I think, with Measure J and the reaction to the CalAm Desal, the people have as much muscle as what the power elite, and so it's really coming down to who you believe and who you trust. And the power elite are playing some desperate games right down to the wire, and the people are trying to hang in there and fight with every argument. And I think Bruce has presented just a fantastic argument on why we should go for the Reclaimed Water Project. I mean, it's the cost advantages, the environmental impact, the ability to tolerate droughts in the future.
And there's no winners and losers?
The volume of water is going to be adequate for all sorts of growth potential, if there's a growth potential at all. But if it's there, there's enough water for that for the next 30 years, 40 years. We may need desal down the road, but way down the road.
And
right now, we don't need desal.
And it won't be a desal plant for one community at the expense of another community that doesn't get a drop of the water. That's crazy.
Regionally decided desal.
Yeah, so I think that the experts believe the best desal would be in the Moss Landing area. And it could serve Santa Cruz County, it could serve northern Monterey County, it could serve the Monterey Peninsula, it could serve San Benito County. That would be a truly regional desal plant. This is not a regional desal plant. This is a CalAm desal plant at the expense of everybody else, especially me.
I have a question.
Yes, Ray.
We often walk on the beach, okay, in that area. Are we going to be affected by sound?
Not much. There's a slant well when that slant well that's in there today, the test slant well, when it was running, you kind of have to be about within 50 feet of it, I think, to hear it.
Yeah, it's not a sound issue.
So this is what I think is really deceptive. There's pictures that are floating around of this CalAm guy standing next to the slant well, and it looks fairly innocuous, actually. But now you're talking about a 6,000 square foot cement platform around this thing, and people on this side of the peninsula, Ray and I are on
They're seeing
Marina's
an
side,
image of
they're
this.
seeing this nice young, this nice man in his hard hat next to this kind of, innocuous looking thing, not a 6,000 square foot cement platform with a fence around it, and
Well, the only thing that makes that seem okay when you go on site, if you were to go there today, or they have a walk tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
yeah.
There's a walk tomorrow from 10 a.m. to noon,
yes.
which meets at the Reservation Road parking lot.
End of Dunes Drive,
End of
which
Dunes
is
Drive.
the RV park.
Right. That's where this was taken. So you start here and you go to the beach and you go up the beach. But anyway, if you go to the slant well that's there now, it's not operating, but it's there. The only thing that makes it look okay is because it's on the edge of a big mining area with mining buildings. But if you took all that other stuff away, you reclaimed it, and you were left with the one slant well, you'd say, well, that's a pimple on the landscape, and it has a road going to it. Boy, it'd be nice to have that road gone. And then if you have, up to 10 of them dotting the landscape like four-door bunkers, take out the bunkers and you put in these smaller wellheads. But still, it's not something Monterey would want at Window on the Bay. Promise you that. That would be a no-starter, non-starter.
Back to your question. Right now, it's restricted access to that area. So they don't have big concrete pads, and they don't have big fences, but it's restricted access. Once Cemex leaves, and it's open to public access, CalAm will still have the rights to do what they need to do for slant wells. That's when the roads come in, the concrete pads go in, the fences go up, and we're not seeing that in the visuals that you're talking about.
Right, that'll be an exclusion, that'll definitely be a secure, excluded area, because they can't have public running through valuable electrical boxes and such like that.
How far up does Marina State Beach boundary go in relation to this?
Well, you have the Cemex property, the 400 acres, comes down to about here. Then you have about an eighth of a mile of Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District land. And then you have the state park, Marina State Beach, and it comes down to the parking lot. And then it continues to Fort then you have Fort Dunes State Beach. So it's actually, on foot, it's quite a way south of there. It's probably about a 10 to 15 minute walk on the beach.
So Bruce, I have another question. And maybe George, what elected officials on this side of the peninsula are opposed to this? I know there's been one Carmel City Council member who's come out.
Opposed to the CalAm Desal?
CalAm Desal, yeah.
Well,
Opposed to CalAm?
Opposed to the CalAm.
so Monterey Mayor, Seaside Mayor, Delray Oaks Mayor, that's it for the mayors. Jane Parker, Board of Supervisor, multiple Monterey Peninsula Water Management District Board of Directors, or what do you call them? Directors? And then school board and others.
And there is one who's a Carmel City Council member who's come out in
Yeah.
opposition.
Jeff Barron wasn't there, but yes, he is, and
It's in this
Several others
issue
did.
of the Carmel County his opposition.
Did they list them all there? I didn't.
There's an article about him
Oh, okay.
opposed.
Jonathan Wizard is Seaside City Council. Dave Pacheco, where do you stand on it?
John Wizard and Jason on the same side.
That's right. Jason Campbell, Dave Pacheco is here tonight with the Seaside City Council. Thanks for coming tonight, Dave. And Jonathan Wizard. Tyler Williamson, I would guess, with the Monterey City Council.
Tyler, are you watching? Type a 1 if you're in opposition to this.
What's that? So 28 electeds got recently together. Those are some of them. But it's really important that Seaside, Monterey, Delray Oaks, those are all flips. Didn't used to be that way. So I believe that the momentum is shifting. I mean, that's not news. And I really detected it when we got slammed at the July County Board of Supervisors meeting where we were hoping that they would not grant CalAm a construction permit to start building the desalination plant off Charlie Benson Lane, north of Marina by the landfill. Well, we lost that day, and it was kind of a little bit humiliating because the 3 supervisors that voted for CalAm were just in a different world than we were in. So it felt like a real gut punch. But that day, Dave Stolt and Paul Shudo, who are their respective managers for water agencies and very respected, basically were saying some of the same things that we were saying. And the Coastal Commission and the State Water Board, legislators like Mark Stone, Bill Monty, they listen to people like that because they have everyone's respect. So that day, even though we lost, when those 2 people got up and basically were being as nice as they could, not to offend anybody, were giving facts that supported what we're talking about tonight, and that's where a lot of these facts come from. I thought that was a big change. And ever since then, it's only been going better our way. I think the Coastal Commission is no longer slant well crazy. There was a time, not very long ago, where they wanted slant wells up and down California. They needed that first one in to be a success. And so they were hoping and they were pushing for this one to get going, be successful, open the floodgates, so we can start slant welling California. Because the concept is very appealing. You put something under the sand, under the ocean, you pull ocean water through the sand, you suck it on the land, take the salt out, no environmental damage. But then, for whatever reason, they pulled it back from the ocean, and now they're taking 82% groundwater and 18% through the sand. So you can't really call it an ocean desal. That doesn't make sense. It's more of a groundwater desal. 82 to 18, it sounds like it's groundwater. So now the Coastal Commission is not so enchanted with slant wells because they're not being used anywhere around the world for this purpose. And there's been technological advances in the open water intake. So recently Santa Barbara got a permit from the Coastal Commission and the Regional Water Board to put open ocean intake. Because the chances of trapping animals or entraining them in the system by sucking them in, like sticking them against the screen so they die entrapped right there, or you pull them into the system, you entrain them, because of their better technology of their mesh and their intakes, that's a minuscule, it's a de minimis impact now, where it used to be really an important, a large adverse impact. So the technology of open intake desal has improved to the point where it's not so bad, and the technology of the slant well just hasn't gotten any better. And George, is it possible that they had so many problems with this test slant well that didn't encourage anybody?
Yeah, the cost started out at $4 to $6 million was the original estimate, and it jumped up $4 to $6 million for just the test well. It's up to $22, $23 million now. So the dollar cost of trying to do a slant well has gotten out of hand. I think that has helped diminish the interest in slant wells.
Any other questions? Therese, this would be a good time for you to come on up.
Okay.
Therese has been working very hard, rallying the troops, distributing paperwork that's needed for people like us to get involved, and leading every Sunday. She helps lead meetings at the Marriott in Marina to give presentations like this and tell people how they can help. Thank you, Therese. Great presentation.
So, many of you are familiar faces, so you might be familiar with what I'm going to show you, but we have 2 or 3 levels of ways to do something about this before the California Coastal Commission meeting and the day of. So the low-hanging fruit is to sign one of these half sheets, which is a very simple statement to the California Coastal Commission that says you're against the desal project and for the expansion of Pure Water Monterey. And Susan, who's back there, Scrivoni, who's done also an incredible amount of work on this issue for months and years. She has a special version of this for Seaside residents. So she's back there. If anybody here hasn't already signed this and is from Seaside, please sign it. Secondly, the big kahuna here is getting people to the Half Moon Bay meeting. That's really the most valuable thing that we can do. And we like to get people of all backgrounds, all ages, because there's a lot of people running around like me, older white folks, but that's not all of who is going to be impacted by this. So to that end, we're fundraising to offer free bus service.
And sandwiches.
And sandwiches, and
What kind of sandwich?
I'm sure.
Delicious sandwiches.
and snacks, and that's the good news. The bad news is you have to be ready to go at 6 a.m. in Marina the day of, because we have to drive to Half Moon Bay, and then there's a process where you have to sign in to say that you're going to give a public comment. Now, not everyone who comes needs to give public comment. We need bodies to just, when somebody like me says something brilliant, then I'll turn around and say, and whoever agrees with me, please raise your hand or please stand up, and that's when all the supporters can raise their hands or stand up. So evidently, this is a very powerful tool with the California Coastal Commission. It has swayed them on occasion, not always, but it has swayed them on occasion to vote in the moment against what their staff has recommended. So when I first started doing this work, I was very naive about how all these things work. Well, the staff of California Coastal Commission, they are the worker bees that have been diligently working for weeks and months now to prepare a document, a report for the California Coastal Commissioners to read and study and to hopefully go along with whatever their recommendation is. But sometimes the California Coastal Commission, the day of the hearing, will vote against what the staff had recommended. And so we don't know yet what they're recommending. We're thinking that because of vectors and forces that are happening that Bruce mentioned, we're thinking that the tide is turning our way and that the California Coastal Commission staff, very, very powerful, used to be like so pro slant wells, are now having more of an open mind about what's really going on here and truly listening to the many, many reasons why it might not be the best solution to a problem. So if the staff says, hey, we suggest that we recommend that you do not give CalAm this permit, we'll find out that next week what their report says. We still want everyone to show up as many people as possible, because you want to reinforce that real people care about this, real people who are directly impacted. And CalAm may very well bus people in that they pay.
They will. I saw a notice today.
Mm-hmm.
You did?
There's an ad out, or a pitch out from CalAm to this very station.
Okay,
Can we
so-
get on their buses?
And we witnessed them doing this at the CPUC meeting.
So can you use that piece of information to show the Coastal Commission that they're buying?
Well, it's not uncommon for groups to collect and show up at the Coastal Commission.
But it's uncommon for them to be paid. So they'll get a slew of hotel workers, a slew of farm workers who will be paid to be there.
Or they'll get the day off with pay.
Right, that's
Getting paid.
They're getting paid.
Right.
So, it does require a sacrifice of you gotta figure about a day of your life, because we don't know how long this is going to take. Coastal Commission meetings can go on and on and on, especially if there's a lot of people who want to give public comment. Let's say there's 35 of us that want to give public comment. They might give us 1 minute, they might give us 2 minutes, but then there's also CalAm's people and Citizens for Just Water, that's my outfit, will have an opportunity to do a 5-minute videotape. CalAm's going to have a presentation, City of Marina, and Marina Coast Water District. will probably have airtime, so it's all time consuming. The coastal commissioners, some of whom are brand new, they don't have any history with this. They will have questions to ask real time, and it's just all very time consuming.
Is this the only thing on their agenda?
No, oh no.
But it's the first thing on their
They
agenda.
have,
So it'll start at 9 a.m.
yeah,
on Thursday the 14th.
they did make that concession to us to just put it so we'll be first instead of like, well, sometime in there. So, if you would like to support with your body and soul, but you just really can't do a whole day, then as Bruce mentioned, there will be the opportunity to give a public comment. Probably it'll be limited to 1 minute,
Same as everybody else though.
which will be live, live streamed, so it'll be like you're part of the meeting at the Half Moon Bay location. But you'll be in the Marina City Hall, and they'll have people from the California Coastal Commission to videotape you and to tell you, you know, it's your turn. And, oh, by the way, as far as I can ascertain, it won't just be for us who are against it. CalAm could send people there too. I figure they must have to have it open to anyone. So there's that factor. In between gathering these signatures, which we are doing at the Marina Farmers Market Sunday mornings 10 to 2, and Sunday nights, every Sunday till this California Coastal Commission meeting, we're meeting from 6 to 7 at the Marriott in Marina, which is called Spring Hill Suites, and we're just on the ground floor in a conference room. So people can come by, ask questions. We do a much shorter summary of what's going on, as Bruce just did, and we provide these half sheets for anybody who wants to take them and go talk to your neighbors about it.
So we're looking for captains to take a little folder home. There's 10 of these. We'll bring them back in a couple of days. You have those ones?
Yeah, we have blue folders in the back. If you think that you could possibly gather a few signatures, there's 10 in there, but if you could do 4 or 5, just your neighbors. I mean, a lot of people, you'd be surprised, know nothing about this. Zero. And have no idea that not only will we possibly lose a beautiful beach, pristine beach, and a whole stretch of beach that goes all the way up north, beyond the Salinas River. It's just, would be a sin to like let this go instead of we have an opportunity for it to be forever free. And to say nothing of the other environmental impacts, the groundwater, which is huge, a huge, huge deal. And on that note, before I finish, I'll just tell you this interesting thing I learned this week, which I never thought about. So I went to talk about saltwater intrusion along the California coast, specifically along Monterey Bay, and I learned that the groundwater aquifers, the fresh groundwater aquifers, actually have little fingers that go out into the bay of fresh water. And I never really thought about it, but I guess in my imagination I thought, well, it must just like end right at the beach. But no. So they're trying to track those and map those 3D imaging now to understand how those ebb and flow and what happens in drought years to those. They figure that those also get pushed inward during drought years because of pulling in groundwater inland. Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What's that?
What time should you be in Marina?
6 a.m.?
6 a.m. at the
Well,
Walmart.
yeah, Walmart.
It'll be leaving though. The bus will be leaving at 6.
I think if you get there at 8:30 or 9, but stay connected. We're easy to stay connected with.
Do you have signs? Do you have signs?
Oh yeah, we welcome signs from the Marina City Council chambers.
The 3 buses are organized by organization.
Yeah, the free.
Water now by organization.
Right. So there's 2 organizations that see this as a no-brainer for recycled water. Public Water Now, representing a lot of Peninsula folks, has a bus,
Yes.
at least one, and then Citizens for Just Water is helping to organize the other buses. So the buses leaving Marina will be provided by Marina Coast Water District, so sorry, Citizens for Just Water Marina, and the ones that Public Water Now are organizing would be provided by Public Water Now.
I think they're all going to assemble in the same place. I think they're all assembling at the Walmarts in Marina. That's the last I heard.
How will you know how many people are going on these buses?
Trying to get people to sign up ahead of time. So we
That brief letter, Grace, that we're asking people to sign has 2 check boxes. I'm willing to volunteer, I can go to Half Moon Bay, and we probably need to add it saying, or I can go to Marina. Right now, it doesn't talk about Marina, I don't think, does it? But the next one. And we have them in Vietnamese, Chinese, Japanese,
Spanish.
Korean, and Spanish. And so you can give those languages to whoever speaks those languages, and they can feel included a little bit. And then when they come to city council chambers, they can just speak their language. They don't have to speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And if the coasters can't understand them, that's the point. These are people that aren't your, normal, affluent Carmel folks.
So, and on that note, if you'd like to donate a little bit to those buses, Citizens for Just Water would be happy to accept those donations.
Okay, so let's have a few hands up. What's one thing you learned tonight? Start with Councilmember Pacheco.
I didn't realize how much it impacted the environment with the amount of plant wells and the wires and the guns and all that.
Right. How would you know? Okay. Anybody else want to volunteer? One thing they learned. Great. Thanks for volunteering.
Yeah, the same thing, the impact of those pads and what it's going to look like. I mean,
And there's not been any computer renderings
wow.
to show you what it's going to look like.
Wow.
Anybody else?
The cost to ratepayers. I mean, am I being cynical if I'm thinking that maybe CalAm is ramping up their expenditures now in order to sour the feasibility study for public water?
Absolutely.
Well, there's no way it's going to make them cheaper. It might not raise the price if it's not allowed to be, because if the water management district can ignore it. Can they ignore it? If they build the desal?
No. I think it's a good question, and I think you're right, and I think that's what CalAm is trying to do, is ramp up the investment that they have in what their plan is. But when the feasibility study comes out, and the value of CalAm is going to be there's going to be some conclusion about that, it will include all of their existing investments. It will include that, so we're stuck with wherever they are.
Yeah.
Somebody else? Like maybe in that row right there, the 3 of you? What's one thing you learned?
I learned quite a bit. I didn't know this is really a thing. I'm from San Luis Obispo. Pretty
So what's one thing you learned tonight?
Why did you come tonight?
This is my girlfriend. And I'm also very interested. I'm doing environmental management at Cal Poly. Yeah. So it's definitely an interesting topic. I still have some questions, but I learned that it's an issue, and I learned that people care.
Well, it might be coming to San Luis Obispo to get a permit if it gets past the Coastal Commission. And then you can speak more knowledgeably about it at that San Luis Obispo meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis, how about you? What's one thing you learned?
Why did they call it desal?
Because it takes...
When only 18% of it is.
But it's still taking salt out of brackish groundwater. It's still desal. It's
But the
not
concept
ocean.
other people would have on it, I don't think.
Most people think of it as ocean desal, which is not.
That's what I learned, Bruce, the ratio, I knew they were taking groundwater. I didn't realize it was that drastic, 82% groundwater. That's amazing.
So they have something like 800-foot pipes that are perforated, and 82% of those perforations are under Marina's coastal dunes, and 18% of them are below mean high tide line.
I think that, a lot of people, when they hear desal, they think it's a big straw.
And they like it,
Yeah.
because
And
it
they say,
sounds
"What's wrong
kind of
with that?"
environmentally okay.
That's,
It can
that's,
be.
yeah.
It's not as good as recycling or conservation, it never will be, but it can be not so bad.
Just FYI, everybody, I think yesterday or the day before, the New York Times had a huge article about desalination plants all over the world. Very long and detailed.
Mhm.
You could probably just find it online.
Debbie, what's one thing you learned tonight?
Well, I had no idea about any of this, obviously, because I don't live here anymore, but just that piece of really good water under Marina being ruined is like, that feels like, you know, if every single person around here heard that, they'd say, of course we don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
We would not have known that if it hadn't been for Stanford. Because up until Stanford, the only thing we knew were from these individual wells. And if they didn't capture fresh water, it was interpreted that there was no fresh water between those wells. But when you take an MRI, you take an image of 1,000 feet deep everywhere, a 3D image, you find out everything. Where's the brackish? Where's the fresh? Where's the salt water? And you know where. It's only a point in time. And people go, well, it's only a snapshot in time. Right, so let's do them every month. Let's not do that. Let's go back to these wells, which are every hour, but they're measuring the same thing and they're not measuring in between. They call it interpolation. They interpolate. They guess sort of what's in between, assuming it's what's being counted in these wells. Well, thanks again. Thank you for coming out. A busy Friday night. You had other choices. You could have gone to the United Film Festival, United Nations Film Festival. Thank you, Sylvia.
I got tickets already.
What's one thing you learned today?
Well, more about the history of how we agree in 2017 on the cement decomposition, right? And we are not doing it.
Yeah. Well, it's happening. Just that CalAm might come in there and do their thing too. All right. Thanks again, everybody.
There's one young lady who's just getting signatures.
Okay, y'all, like and share this video so that the people that didn't get to watch it while it was live great opportunity for it to wind up on their feed as well. Thank you for joining us. I don't think there's going to be any more questions. This is Green Party Monterey County, folks, and a few others. Oops. That's not what I wanted. Can I? Ha ha ha. Hey everybody. So that was it. And I'm gonna say goodnight. You guys, this is Susan. Hi, Susan Pagoni. She is leading the charge here in the Seaside. So then you guys hook up with her. I think she is.
I'm not on Facebook.
Okay, we'll figure
I'm
out
old
how to find
fashioned.
you.
But I am at the farmer's market tomorrow.
Ooh, farmer's market tomorrow. Find her.
Seaside.
She has some very important things for you to sign, and she'll make those available to you in both English and Spanish.
English and Spanish.
English and Spanish. That's Susan.
Come by my booth.
Yes.
Sign my name.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, we
I think I'm going to say good night as well. If you guys see me again, it's because I had more to say or I found somebody that wanted to say hi to me. So, unless you guys have questions, I'm not quite sure. Let's see if I can find the questions. Any comments? Do you guys have any comments that you want? I think I just found the comment button, and I see that you guys are with me. No? Because I'm going to turn this off if you don't have anything to ask.
Audra, what's one thing you learned tonight?
Oh, that I don't know how to type and say hi everybody. This is Mayor Bruce Delgado of Marina, California.
Thank you, Audra, for having us here tonight.
Thank you as well.
She did great. She worked really hard to pull this off. Good job.
Does anybody have questions for the mayor of Marina and this desal plant project? I'm going to try and figure out.
Hi, Annette.
Yay!
Hi, Adam. Hi, Marcella. Hi.
They're just gonna
Marlica.
keep.
Hi, Mindy. I see you, Deborah. Hi, Angel.
That's pretty good. Okay, yeah. The Facebook is broken sometimes, so yeah. Tyler Wolf is in here somewhere, maybe.
Hi, Tyler. Hi, Celia Bosworth.
There you go. You guys want to say hi to George? Say hi to George and Dave Pacheco. Everybody, hi. This is Facebook. Hi, Facebook. Yeah. Adam, you say Adam? Powwowing?
We're moving the mountains.
We are.
It's a big issue.
Yes, it is a huge issue. All right.
We got enough people from the seaside there anyway.
Okay, guys, I've got to clean up the Peace and Justice Center, and I'll see you guys on the other side. If I have to figure out how to say goodbye to you guys. Bye, everybody.